I was in the car a long time on behalf of the Presbytery this past Sunday. I drove from Peoria to Quincy and back so that I could be with our new church development there in worship, and I was their preacher yesterday. So that gave me a lot of time to listen to the radio, to sing along with songs, and do all those kinds of things. Part of what I heard several times while I was listening to the radio was a reference to the Mayan calendar. Now, you have probably heard that there is a prediction, some people say, in the Mayan calendar that the world will end on December 21st, 2012. Apparently, there are businesses that are giving discounts around December 21st, and I guess Expedia.com is even offering some discounts on travel to the area where the Mayans lived, and so people are profiting from this. One of the most amazing things I heard, though, was some huge percentage of people around the world believe that the world will end this December 21st, 2012. Now, as Christians, when we hear things like that, we probably think, oh, well, that's kind of silly to imagine that. And we might think, oh, well, that's just superstition, as people think about that. But then, of course, as I was driving, it's the fall, I was driving through the cornfields and the soybean fields the whole time I was driving yesterday. And it struck me that there are things about the way we practice our religion that other people might think of as superstitious. I remember when I was a pastor in a rural area that I would often have church members tell me that they would never work in the fields on Sunday. Some of them would even tell me that if they ever did work in the fields with their tractors on a Sunday, something would always break, something would go wrong, they'd get stuck in a mud hole, something just wouldn't go the way it was supposed to. So yesterday I was watching. I saw a lot of equipment that was sitting idle on Sunday, waiting to go back to work on Monday. I also saw a lot of people working in their fields and driving slowly down the road right in front of me as they were taking care of their work from the fields. So who knows whether the equipment that was sitting idle was there because people thought that it was a part of their faith, part of their religion, not to be working on Sunday, or maybe they were just taking the day off. It made me think about what is the difference between superstition and faith. Now, they probably are pretty close in the minds of people who don't really have any faith, who don't have any understanding of what it means to believe that we have a relationship with God based on something outside of ourselves. And for a while I was beginning to think, well, maybe the difference between superstition and faith is what I believe is faith and what you believe is superstition, if it's something different. I looked it up, of course, on the internet, on Wikipedia, and I guess superstition was first used in the Greek world to talk about fear of the gods, of the Greek gods, that if you were afraid of the Greek gods, then that was superstition. Well, the other thing that strikes me about it is that superstition kind of can put the impetus maybe, the power in the relationship on us. In other words, we think there is this kind of superstitious relationship between us and God when we believe that our actions control what God can do. So it reminded me of the very beginning of our Book of Order, the foundations of Presbyterian polity. Because in this theological treatise that begins our constitution as a church, we are reminded that the power in this relationship, this faith relationship, is not with us. The power is always and only with God, who has sent Jesus so that we will know who God is. We're reminded, for instance, that Jesus Christ is the head of the church, that the authority of Christ is what we build the church upon, that it is Christ who calls and equips the church, that Christ gives the church its life, that Christ is the church's hope, that Christ is the foundation of the church. So instead of the kind of superstitious belief that our actions control what God does, our Book of Order, the theological underpinnings of our polity, reminds us that it is always God who is in charge and has sent Jesus to confirm that for us. The other thing that I was reminded of in our faith is that we really don't base our faith on fear. In fact, we are reminded by the first letter of John to the church that perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, he writes, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because God first loved us. So as you hear more and more through the next few months about the Mayan calendar and worry about the date of December 21st and whether the world will end then, I would advise you, I guess, to take advantage of all of those people who are willing to sell you something for less money because the world might be gone on December 22nd, but also to remember that we base our lives on faith, not on superstition. And we know that we can always rely on the love of God.